Welcome to another segment of our Diverse Voices in Banking series. With me today, it is truly my honor to have Quinn Christensen here, who is the Senior Vice President of Operations at People's Community Bank over in Mazomanie. Welcome to today's episode, Quinn.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we're excited to get to know you a little bit better here. So my first question for you is, you've been in the banking industry, just celebrated 15 years, so congratulations to that. As a successful banker so far, what do you consider to be your greatest accomplishment?
Well, when I first started here full time, that was really the time that banks were making major transitions from being focused on the traditional banking avenues, such as lobby and drive-up traffic, and transitioning to more of an omni-channel presence with the online and mobile features and 24/7 access. Pretty much, every banking conference I was attending early in my career was warning us that the branch banking as we knew it was dying, and so we were
Yeah.
we were put under the direction then to kind of meet the customer's needs elsewhere. So I was given the directive by our CEO at the time to really find efficiencies, reduce FTEs, and expand our online offerings at the time. So I oversaw a lot of that over the past few years, including installing cash recyclers in our teller lines to ease up their workload, enhancing our mobile banking app, and adding remote deposit, biometrics, everything like that. Online account opening and e-signature, again, because our customers wanted other avenues rather than coming to the branch during business hours. And currently we're going through a core system conversion. We've been on the same, we've been on the same core for almost 30 years, and so It's time for a change. Yeah. And that being said, we picked a system that, has more open APIs, able to interface very smoothly to both internal banking software and customer facing. So again, just all these different avenues really to reach the customer. So all this experience really made me an expert in finding efficiencies and really just project management in general.
Right. Well, and I'm quite sure that all of your work in creating a solid foundation of technology for both employees and customers helped in the last year when everyone needed to rely on technology because of the pandemic. So yeah, that's really rewarding work. That's great to hear. Certainly in your 15 years now, you probably are serving as a role model for others, but as you look back so far on your career, who really stands out to you as a role model, or more than one person that has really been inspiring for you?
Well, I would say that my role model is definitely very personal to me. I would say my role model in the banking industry is my mother, to be honest. She works here at the People's Community Bank as well, and has for almost 30 years. But long ago, my parents, I grew up in Mazomanie, and both my parents would commute to Madison for work. And it just became hard when both of them were 30 miles away, 12 hours a day, every day. So my mother, with no banking experience, saw an ad to be a lunchtime coverage CSR part-time at the People's Community Bank. And she took the job. And what was inspiring to me is she took that position and really ran with it. And for the next 30 years after that, she was in customer service, marketing, cashier, branch manager, personal banker. Most recently now she's our vice president of compliance. And I knew at a very early age, even as early as like kindergarten, that I wanted to be just like her. I wanted to be a banker. And more specifically, I wanted to work at the People's Community Bank.
Wow. So, that rarely happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah. No, she's really the one who pushed me to want to become a banker. She's the one who hired me in high school to be a CSR after school and on the weekends. So yeah, no, I've really looked up to her all these years.
Oh, that's really neat. And honestly, a great example of how so many careers have grown in banking, where you really start out at the very, frontline entry type of a position and are able to work your way up. So I think it really highlights how rewarding of a career banking can be for anybody.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, my last question for you today is, how do you or what do you consider important for the banking industry to really understand to continue to best serve and really grow our work with members of the LGBTQ community?
Sure. So I have to say, whenever you ask a community bank what their niche or their greatest asset is, I can bet you $1 million that every time you will hear them say, our people are our
Yep,
greatest assets or our employees. And I do have to say, I chuckle to myself whenever I hear this, because whenever you're at a banking conference or at a gathering or anything, that's always the answer. They're always so proud of their staff. And I totally believe that to be true in community banking, just because we see customers facing employees of our banks bending over backwards to accomplish anything for their customers. And really, I wish to take that a step further and really see, is your greatest asset also benefiting your internal staff, your internal family, really, and making everybody feel welcome and comfortable and a part of the family. Um, I would basically, acknowledge that, staff don't need to necessarily over acknowledge somebody in the LGBTQ community, but more specifically, just including them, just like everybody else,
right.
and over the years, I've been very lucky to work at a bank that's treated me like family. Honestly, my staff are some of my most best friends I've known now pretty much my entire life.
Yeah.
And even my husband Mike, he's a banker as well at another neighboring community bank, and he's a part of the family too when we all get together for bank parties or social gatherings. And really just having that inclusion
Hmm.
is essential, and really using your best assets to make sure your staff are happy.
Yeah. No, and I think that is truly a great point. I was just going to use the word inclusion that you mentioned at the end, that, that truly, that's true for anybody, certainly, but certainly for people in the LGBTQ community to feel really comfortable where they work and a part of where they work and, no different than anyone else because they aren't any different than anyone else when it comes to work. So that's really important. And especially in community banks, I know in larger banks, the larger you get, you end up with employee resource groups that are very focused on different categories, but that's not always really possible or even realistic in a smaller bank, but there's still so many ways to make people feel really included. So I appreciate you highlighting that for us. Thank you. And thank you again
Definitely.
for all you've done for the banking industry and certainly for the bank. It's really a unique and special story to be able to say you're working in the same community that you've grown up in and even in the same institution you were aspiring to do with your mother. So that's great. You just can't talk shop at home with Michael, however, because if he's working at a neighboring bank, right, that's competition. So
Right, exactly,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, that's right. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with us today, Quinn. I really do appreciate it. And again, thank you for all you're doing for the industry. I look forward to continuing to watch your career succeed well into the future.
Well, thank you very much, Rose, for hosting me.
Yep. Thank you.